saying, my relationship with TESOL-Ukraine goes back to 2014, when I was scheduled to be there with the US Department of State. And because of the Russian invasion in 2014 of Crimea, we weren't able to go. So I am still, more than 10 years later, looking forward to being there in person. Not today, but I hope as soon as it is safe to do so. So I wanted to thank everybody on the TESOL Ukraine Convention Organizing Board. It is hard enough organizing a conference in times of peace. Organizing a conference in times of war, I cannot imagine. So, my thanks and congratulations to all of the organizers. The theme of the conference, Rising Together, Teaching with Hope and Strength, I think is a very important and very appropriate theme. So in my research for today's talk, as you can see, I have blue and yellow for my, I also got one of these. There is behind me, you can't see it in this little hotel room, there is a Canadian Ukrainian flag. All of those are symbols of hope, I believe. Strength is a trickier notion. Historically, historians recognize Adolf Hitler as a very strong leader, but he was not a good leader. So I chose to focus on the notion of hope rather than strength today. And I hope my brief opening comments will help with the rest of today. So when I was teaching, first teaching 30 years ago in China, I was desperately short of teaching material and would grab onto anything I could find. And one of the things I noticed was that poetry in any language was a very beautiful and powerful way of using relatively little language to communicate a great deal of meaning. So, Emily Dickinson, as some of you will know if you are students of literature, Emily Dickinson was this very enigmatic figure, like many great writers. She was not very well known during her life, and it was after her death that she really came to be much better known. So, one of the poems that she wrote is called Hope is the Thing. And when I saw the theme for today's online conference and tomorrow in person, I thought about this particular poem. She didn't normally give a title to her poems, they were usually just the first line. So, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Some of you, if you teach language with literature or literature and language, will recognize some of those ideas that the metaphor of hope as a bird with feathers that flies, and even in the face of very stormy weather, the gale that she refers to is still alive. And there is always hope. Without hope, we have nothing. So the notes from various sources talk about the seafaring adventures and the use of this metaphor of hope. So I really appreciate the theme of the conference and rather than strength, chose to focus on the notion of hope. So I'm based in Canada, ostensibly. I divide my time roughly between half of the year in Asia and half of the year in North America. But it turns out today that I am in England, as I mentioned earlier, in a small town, village really, in the southeast of England. Outside of the hotel window behind me, there are cows and horses and ponies wandering around in the front garden. It's quite extraordinary to see this very beautiful pastoral, bucolic landscape behind me, which is not the landscape for many of you. But as I am here in England today, um, I wanted to refer to the UK Foreign Secretary, who 3 months ago gave a address to the British government after 1,000 days of the Russian invasion. And as he said, it has been 1,000 days since Russia's full-scale invasion stunned the world, 1,000 days in which Ukrainian bravery has 1,000 days whose horror and bloodshed has dismayed the world. Um, so, for my research for today's talk, I was looking at what other governments, the Canadian government, the British government, and other governments have said about the past 3 years and 3 months. And although we will not be dwelling on it during the conference today, I did not want to avoid the English phrase is the elephant in the room. And so I wanted to be uh, very clear about your context there. Again, as some of you know, uh, I've written a lot about the importance of context in English language teaching and other kinds of teaching. So I did want to fully acknowledge the very challenging context that you're facing there and to thank the British government. It's now a new government for their comments and for their support. Some of the people here in this small, quiet, peaceful village in the far southeast of England have asked me about your situation, about your context, and why it matters, why the conference matters, why language teaching still matters, why all of the work that all of you do every day is still important. So, again, looking to the UK government, I'm being very careful, especially as we're now being recorded, to point out that these are the kingdom. They're not my words, they're words that I happen to be rigorously appreciate, agree with, and support. Um, but these are not my words, they are my position. So you can see from that screen that the UK government, the Canadian government, and the governments of many different countries have expressed their support for Ukrainian people and for a peaceful end to the war there. That was in November 2024. And of course, it's been more than 3 months since then. The comments from the British government and other governments, you can see there on the screen that I haven't used the name of the Russian president. In many traditions, to speak the name of an evil entity is to invite that entity to join us. And so I have in my work on various world leaders, including the president of Russia, have avoided using their name. So the bracketed um, parenthetical references there, the POR is the president of Russia. So I'm careful not to use the name of uh, evil spirits or world leaders that fall into that category. So the cost of war is extremely high, but the importance of the work that teachers do is higher. There is probably no more important time in a country's history, no more important time in the work of any of us as teachers, language teachers, or teachers of any other subject than during times of armed conflict. The young people that we work with are the future of all of our countries. And so the work of teachers is probably most important in the most difficult times. So I thought a lot. As some of you know, I didn't start in teaching. I started in healthcare and made the move from healthcare to language education many years ago, and was very severely criticized for ditching a prestigious medical scholarship to become an English language teacher of all things, the right decision. I'm going to talk briefly about the context, your context there. Uh, my work is, as I mentioned earlier, very context based. So I looked at, and some of you have seen from my previous workshop some of this research, most of you haven't. So I looked at some of the writing that Ukrainian teachers, language teachers in Ukraine, have written and published about their daily work, including this paper on assessment and the importance of assessment in our work as language teachers there and elsewhere. The focus of that particular paper and a number of other papers was the Ukrainian language proficiency test, which I have since learned about. Um, these assessments, the work that you're doing there as language teachers, will be extremely important in the post-war reconstruction that we all hope and pray is not far off. So I looked at the research and have shared with some of you some of the research on the work that you're doing there, particularly focused on testing and assessment. Um, so I wanted to briefly, to start today's proceedings, it's actually where the UK is 2 hours behind in timing of Ukraine timing, so it is very early in the morning. But I did want to take this brief time to again congratulate Marina and all of the organizers for putting together this event. When they first invited me, TESOL-Ukraine, to give some workshops last year to teachers, and I see some familiar faces from those workshops, on language teaching and methodology and pedagogy, I asked them if it was appropriate to give those workshops. And their answer, which inspired me, was to say yes, because the work we do as teachers must continue and has possibly never been more important. So I am very grateful for this opportunity to make these brief opening remarks to your conference and to hope and pray that the conflict which has gone on for so long at such an unimaginable cost will come to a conclusion soon. My most recent work, which I mentioned in my biography for today's conference, is about the other president, the president of the United States of America. And 10 years ago, in 2015, I officially announced the beginning of the end of the USA as a power for good in the world. I will not go into that today, but my most recent work has looked at the speeches of world leaders, the world leaders that we can look to for hope and strength, and the world leaders whose time in power is coming to an end. So, without going into any more detail, I know you have a lot of wonderful talks and presentations today. I have seen the program and I am looking forward to checking in as today's events unfold here. And I, again, am honored and grateful for the opportunity for this time to be with you once again. I will pass back to Marina now. I will thank you all for joining us and to Aviva Ueno in Japan there, who has joined us again to make this a truly international event, England, Japan, Ukraine at the very least. So I will pass back to Marina at this point. Thank you. And if we have a few
Thank
minutes for
you.
questions, if anyone has any questions, I'd like to leave a few minutes, but I know you have a very full program there.
Maybe about questions, dear presenters, if you don't mind, just we will ask you to provide your email address in the chat, if you don't mind. And then if someone have any questions, you will have an opportunity to ask them via emails. Okay, because we have really time limits.
Yes, yes, I'm aware of and respectful of the presenters to come, and I'm looking forward to learning from them and hearing from them.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Curtis, for such an amazing presentation. And it is a really great honor for us to listen to such a speaker. And for those who wasn't with us from the beginning, yes, so it was our opening presenter of our presentation, Dr. Andy Curtis. And from 2015 to 2016, he served as 50th president of TESOL International Association, and in 2016 he received one of the association's 50 at 50 World Awards when he was voted one of the 50th most influential figures in the field of the our 50 years of the association. So think about it. So such a great presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day. It's really good to be there. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you.
And our next presenter is Shannon Roach. Shannon Roach is an experienced global educator and teacher trainer. Beyond the classroom, she engages in mentoring and training instructors and pre-service teachers, supports study abroad programs, and collaborates in the development of content curriculum and courses that support instructors and English learning across disciplines. And Shannon Roach is going to speak on the topic Teaching with Heart, a mindfulness workshop for language educators, and short outline of the presentation you may read on the screen. And Mrs. Roach, Miss Roach, the floor is yours. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Let me. Sorry, it's like not the first time I've used Zoom, but it's okay. There we go. I think I got it. There we go. Hello. Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction, Tanya. And also just thank you for inviting me and having me here. I appreciate it. My name is Shannon. I am an English language fellow. I'm currently living in Ankara, Turkey, though I am originally from New York. Um, and so, yeah, I've been teaching yoga alongside of English for a while, and I also have been doing a lot of mindfulness activities in my own personal life. And I thought that it would be, for the context, something that would be helpful or at least intriguing um, when considering the context. And so teachers generally are all very burnt out, regardless of where we are. And I can imagine that those of you in Ukraine have a higher significance of burnout. And so I'm hoping that some of these things might be able to help you find some peace and ease in your days. So I kind of want to do a quick grounding activity when we start. I'm going to talk about what mindfulness is. I'm going to give you a couple of guided practices and then just some tips for activities in your classrooms. And then I think I might even have a few minutes for some questions if you would like. So, welcome. I would like to take a moment to ground. And when I mean ground, I just mean sort of like center ourselves in our bodies and just sort of like start to tap in to how we feel in the moment. Oops. Oh, sorry. I want to breathe first. So let's just take a couple of deep breaths. You can close your eyes if that feels comfortable. If it doesn't, you can keep your eyes open. That is okay. But usually I have like water images with breathe, but I really wanted you to feel inspired and powerful. And with our breath, we can do that. And so I want you to sort of breathe in with your nose and then long, slow exhale. And just notice how that feels in your body. Like I said, you can close your eyes, you can keep them open. We'll do it a couple more times. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth slowly. You can even sigh it out. And one more. Breathe in and out. And just sit with it for a minute. Feel maybe your chair under you, maybe your feet on the floor. Maybe you hear the birds like I do. And just kind of notice how you are feeling in this moment. Even as I'm presenting, I feel a little bit less nervous than I did a minute ago. Hopefully, you all feel the same as well. Um, I would like to be a little bit interactive with my presentation going forward. So if you do have the availability to be at a keyboard and to type in the chat message, I encourage you to. I want you to consider the question, what supports your well-being as an educator, as a teacher? What helps you maintain your physical and emotional and mental health? And just take a moment to think about it and type your answers in the chat. I'm really curious to hear what can be supportive for you. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing anything, that's okay too. Oh, swimming and sports, yes. Exercise. I also exercise a lot. Like I said, I do yoga. I also run. I love to music and books. Yes. Family. Yes. Our social circles. The results of our work. Yeah. Reading. Wonderful. I love reading. One of my favorite activities. Excellent. Good. So I I encourage you all, if you haven't found something that you really find that you really enjoy to support your well-being, to do that, because along with mindfulness, those things that we enjoy can really help us to stay present in our work and with our students as well. Um, so what is mindfulness? The American Psychological Association defines it as awareness of one's internal states and surroundings. I add without judgment. John Kabat-Zinn, who's a mindfulness professor at Berkeley and very well known in the mindfulness field, he stresses this as well. This part is very, what's a good way to phrase it? Without judgment is important because we don't want to be judging our feelings. As a woman, as educators, we can often do that. Men do it as well, but I have found my female colleagues do this more. But there's always this like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. But mindfulness is just accepting how we feel and like understanding that it's okay to have the feelings that we have. We have life experiences and circumstances that we feel emotional about, and it is okay to have those emotions. So awareness of one's internal states and surroundings. So we're going to kind of tap into this a little bit more. Hopefully that breathing really sort of helped to turn you inward and to focus on yourself. So think again, how do you feel today? I like having a bigger spectrum of just like happy, angry, sad. How do you feel today? Just kind of tap into it and just accept that it's there. And you don't have to share if you don't want to in the chat. It's totally okay. Oh, I might love that, Lilia. Oh, really warm today. Yeah. We so often go through our days when people are like, oh, how are you? And we're like, oh, we're fine, you know. But it's good to check in with yourself. Oh, strong. I love that. Yes. Hopefully my lion helped with my breathing. Yeah, interested. Great. Good. I like they're all tapping in. It's wonderful. Okay. So mindfulness, even just those 3 deep breaths, even just asking ourselves, like, how do I feel today? How do I feel right now? It helps us slow down. Mindfulness can help us understand emotion. And when we are sort of under ourselves better, of course, that leads to being able to communicate more effectively. Especially in the classroom, we need to be able to communicate effectively with our students. Our calm, I think, helps our students. It doesn't help if we join in their chaos, right? And so the more calm we can be with our students, the more we can kind of help them find calm as well. And so the first step of that is understanding our emotions and just accepting that they're there. Can also manage difficult students. My students can be very difficult. But it gives you, again, you don't have to match their energy. You don't have to match their chaos, whatever their chaos might be. But you can find some calm within yourself and sort of give them space to find calm as well. You can set up positive learning environments and you can build community with mindfulness. So I actually want to do a guided practice. Just a few minutes. It's called a body scan. So we've tapped into our feelings. We've tapped into our breath a little bit. We're going to touch into our breath a little bit more. And I am going to read a script. So I'm going to read a script that will go through how you're feeling in your body. And so I am going to start, and I invite you to settle into a comfortable position, whether you want to like lean back in your chair, cross your legs, sit down just very comfortably. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable with that. And I just want you to start noticing your breath. I want you to feel your lungs fill with fresh air, new air as you breathe, and empty out the old air as you breathe out. You don't need to change anything about how you're breathing. Just notice in and out. You can shift your awareness, your focus to your feet. How do they feel on the ground? What does the surface feel like? Is it hard or soft? Your feet feel warm or cold? Do your socks or shoes, if you're wearing any, feel comfortable, uncomfortable, cozy even? And keep focusing on your breath as well. Breathing in and out, not forcing anything. And you can shift your awareness from your feet to your calf muscles and your lower leg. Do your legs feel tired? Is there tension? And just notice it and then let it go as you continue to breathe in and out. You can slowly move your awareness up further your leg, past your knees, your hips. This part of our body does so much for us throughout our days, supporting us all day, every day. And notice, is there any stiffness or soreness that might be there? And let it go with your breath. Still breathing in and out. And slowly shift your awareness to your lower back, following your spine until your shoulders and your neck. I know this is where I hold all of my stress. I imagine many of you hold that there too. And just breathing in and out, trying to release some of that stress. And feel your chest and your abdomen expand, getting bigger as you breathe in, and contracting, getting smaller as you breathe out. And if you notice any tension, just on your exhale, let that go. There's nothing else to do right now. Just paying attention to your body, breathing in and out. And letting go of any tension that you feel. And now shift your attention to your neck, your jaw, other places in our face, maybe that hold our tension, like our forehead, or the crown of our head, the top of our head. And try to relax the muscles in your face, still breathing in and out, and let that tension go. Yeah, how does your breath feel as it comes in through your nose? Is it warm or cool? How does it feel going out? And just continue to breathe. And as we come to the end of our scan, try bringing the attention to your whole body and breathe in and release any additional tension as you breathe out. And know that you can always return to this practice whenever you feel the need. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes and return to your surroundings. And how do you feel? How do you feel now? I'd like to know if you don't mind putting it in the chat. If I didn't put you to sleep, you can tell me how you feel. Calm. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Yeah. I have done this exercise with students in the past on a particularly, on days that are particularly rowdy and chaotic. It's a good one to do with students. Relaxed, good. Wonderful. I'm very happy to see those. Calm and relaxed. Great. Did you notice anything specific in your body? Oh, yay, Tanya, I'm so glad. Good, I'm glad I could bring, yeah, I feel a lot calmer too. I feel a lot less nervous now too. Yeah. Anything else you notice? I hear some sirens outside door. I'm sorry about that. Um, yeah, I notice like the tension really released from my body even when I'm reading it and leading it for others. Good. I'm glad. All right. So there are other mindfulness activities that are shorter that we can do with our students to really sort of create that community and really get them a little more, centered and grounded, especially if they've had, a lot of challenges, which I imagine they all do right now. So you can just have a 1-minute arrival practice. So you can just have your students sit quietly and just focus on the breath, like we did at the beginning. You can just take 3 deep breaths with your students and just say, all right, how do we feel today? Let's calm down and help get ready to start our day. We could do some breathing and stretch breaks. So if they're getting a little bit, I don't know, rowdy or just emotional in some way, you can just like lead the breath work again or do some stretching. It doesn't have to be yoga, it could just be like twisting, arms overhead, side to side, just whatever feels good for them and whatever way they need to release tension. Maybe just take a walk around the room. Um, and then some mindful listening games with your students where they have to listen to each other. Maybe just after the weekend on a Monday morning, they talk about what they did or how they were feeling, and then the other student can repeat back what they heard the other student say. And this builds presence, empathy, and honestly, good paraphrasing skills, which is a good academic skill. Um, And then I love gratitude journaling. You could have your students keep a gratitude journal or even just an exit ticket for the end of the class. Just what they enjoyed or what they're grateful for. You can give them the sentence frame if that is helpful. If you're wanting to do this in English, if you're teaching English and you want to make sure that, they're using English. Sometimes I have them do it in both languages because when we are in a language that we are learning, we tend to be a little bit emotionally detached. There are actual studies that show when you're talking about challenging subjects in another language, you don't get as emotional about it. And so sometimes I actually like to have my students do the gratitude ticket or journaling in their first language, or whatever language they feel most comfortable with, because I think it activates that centeredness and that mindfulness in a different way. Or you can just do both. You can do both English and a home language. But it helps support their emotional awareness and, of course, reflection, which is always helpful for everyone. You can also have a kindness intention. So you can begin class with a quiet intention. Um, it fosters compassion and positive classroom climate, which is always a good way to build that community, when we're thinking about the others in our group and sort of just wishing them well, giving them, kindness. It really helps to foster that compassion and positive classroom community. So we're going to do one more mindfulness practice during the session. It's a mini heartfulness practice. And this, I really want you to focus on yourself first. As educators, we often put everyone else ahead of us. And so as educators, I want us to take a moment for ourselves because we can't really do we can't really do things to the best of our abilities when we're not taking care of ourselves. And so it is really important, even if it's just doing this very short practice. So again, sit comfortably with your eyes closed if that feels comfortable. Take a slow, deep breath and just kind of release whatever's lingering from our body scan and focus on your breathing. Continue to focus on your breathing. Focusing on our breathing helps us to stay in the present moment. And you can silently and slowly repeat a kind word or phrase to yourself. I've given some examples on the slide. May I be safe. May I be calm. May I be kind to myself today. And may I find ease today. You can go through all of these if you want. See which one feels right. And slowly repeating the word or phrase that you've chosen. And if your mind wanders, that is normal and okay. Just continue to bring yourself back. May I be safe. May I be calm. May I be and may I find ease. And then we're going to expand our practice a little bit and think of someone who brings you joy or comfort. And silently offer them the same kind wish. This part always makes me cry, so if I get a little teary. But yeah, think of someone who brings you joy or comfort. And it's okay to feel whatever feelings you have. And silently offer them the same kind wish. May you be safe. May you be calm. May you feel supported. May you experience ease. And continue to focus on your breath. And just accept the emotions that arise, that come. And then bringing your attention back to your breath. We're going to take one final breath in with gratitude for ourselves, our people who bring us joy and comfort, our teaching, our students in this moment of care. And breathe out. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and you can carry this intention with you the rest of your day. I hope you're able to find some ease in all of your days. I have found that joy is one of the harder feelings to let myself feel, especially with the world we live in. And so, yeah, it's okay, whatever you're feeling. We are still allowed to find joy in our days and ease. I'd like to leave you with one final thought before I let you ask me questions. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And this is Aristotle, a philosopher from eons ago. But I've always liked this quote. I've always felt that it's important to build a community and to know my students well, because I feel like if they don't know who I am even, they're not really going to learn anything else in my classroom. And so I take this one to heart for with me in all of my classes. I really try to appreciate and listen to my students. And mindfulness practices are a really good way to do that with them and create that community with them. So, yeah, thank you all so much. I hope you are feeling relaxed. I have a QR code here. If you're interested in having these slides, you are welcome to go for it. I also, in the slide deck, I'm just going to scoot forward for a second. I have these links to the body scan that I did. There's the script is there. And then also 7 ways mindfulness can help teachers. I also referenced during this talk, and you can get those links there. So this is the link to my PowerPoint, and you're welcome to email me as well, specialistshannon@gmail.com. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining me today and letting me lead you in some mindfulness activities. And if you do have questions, we do have a few minutes. I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon, for such a really relaxing and comforting presentation. And I think that everyone feels it. And yeah, if you have some questions, we have like 2 or 3 minutes. So ask in chat or
Yeah, anyway,
so.
totally fine. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to put it in the chat or just shout out.
There's a lot of thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tanya. Again, thank you so much, all of you, for joining
So
me today.
I'm reading the chat, yeah, and there's just a lot of thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shannon. So I think I see that you have made it now. You don't have any questions, but you may ask Shannon, yeah, just on email. So, and then I think we will switch to our last but not the least presenter, Kubra Salmanova. Kubra Salmanova is an award-winning English language educator, project manager, and community leader from Azerbaijan. She teaches at the Azerbaijan Technical University and is the founder of English Zone Baku, where she integrates media literacy, environment awareness, and learner autonomy into English instructions. Kubra is also the founder of the Society for Teaching Excellence and Progress, promoting innovation and professional growth among educators. She has led multiple projects supported by the US embassies in Baku and Tbilisi, and focusing on professional development, gender equality, and youth improvement. Ms. Kubra is going to speak on the topic developing learners' autonomy. Short outline of the presentation you may read on the screen. And Ms. Salmanova, the floor is yours. You are welcome.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Tanya, for great introduction. And I'm really happy to be here, and I would like to say thank you for all the organizers of such great initiative. And this is an honor for me to be here with you. to meet so many amazing professionals and have a chance to share some of my own experience. And yes, today I'm going to speak about teachers' autonomy. And let me first of all share my screen, and then I guess we can start. Just a moment. Yeah. So I guess there is no need to an introduction anymore, but I'm going to speak about cultivating learners' autonomy, because actually learning is a lifelong process, and if students get used to self-development, that means our success as teachers. So first of all, I'd like you, dear teachers, to share with me what does learner autonomy mean to you. If you can share your ideas in the chat box, that would be amazing. If any ideas, if now we can investigate it together. Yes, exactly. Ability to think logically and critically. And in our schools, actually, I have to confess, we do not have enough of such skill. Okay, about creativity, why not? Emphasize information. Yes, good, nice. Thank you. And if we go back to our slide, this is about informed decisions, because if the students themselves are aware of their ability to choose, they feel much more comfortable, much more responsible. It's about self-regulations, because if we give autonomy to a student, it means that they schedule their learning time, and of course become more responsible. It's about core components, because learner autonomy is very closely connected with 21st century skills, with setting the goals, with problem solving, with all these things. And even we also integrate here progress and monitoring evaluation, because if we integrate, let's say, learner autonomy, that does not mean that we teachers just sit and do not do anything. And this is about again about capacity to choose and act, because we provide this choice to learners. Thus, if we're speaking about learner autonomy, I'd like to attract your attention to the things that really matter here. The first one, this is lifelong skill. As it was mentioned at the very beginning, if the students obtain this ability, they become much more flexible, and we boost their adaptability and continuous learning. Because this is not only about university or school, it is about lifelong skill. If we able to provide actually learners autonomy, this is about engagement, because the students feel empowered, and of course they are more motivated, and statistically they get much more achievements. Actually, according to statistics, students who learn independently get about 35% more success than the ordinary ones. This is about, again, critical thinking, as it was mentioned in the chat box too. Because this is closely aligned with problem-solving capacities, and about workforce preparation, because only by learner autonomy we can integrate into classroom 21st century skills such as problem solving, time management, discipline, group work, and so on. And I would say the most difficult ones for our community are time management, maybe it's something connected to culture, and group work. And I would like to ask the teachers here to share in the chat box, which one do you think is the most challenging for your students? And yes, this is about their ability to study outside of the classroom, or at least their understanding that they should work to get any success, not only to be led by teachers all their life. And would you share, please, which 21st century skills seem the most challenging for your students, for students in your culture? As I said, this is time management and group work. Yes, actually, curriculum is also something that is very difficult for students to manage. Yes, exams and lots of lessons. Also, not only exams, but different kinds of assessments. I would agree. But what about skills? How good are students in Ukraine, for example, with group work? Isn't it challenging? Okay. Okay, no problem. We can switch to the next one, the next slide. And we have an answer in the chat box. No challenging. That's good actually. If no challenges, that's amazing. Okay, so if we come to learner-centered environment, first of all, I would like to share my own experience that sometimes it's not easy for students to accept this, let's say, relatively new approach. For example, I can bring an example. Recently, in one of my groups, we had a peer assessment after writing session, and students were really surprised why we're doing that. What is the reason? And I was also surprised in my turn that they were first year students, and never in their life their teachers applied such kind of approach. And sometimes if some approach is new, no parents, no students trust you. And it's really very important to gain some time and then get their trust. So now if we're speaking about, if we're speaking about learner-centered environment again, this is first of all about instruction shift. As we all know, 20% of teacher talking time and 80% of student talking time. But it really demands a lot of effort to provide such kind of classroom. You have to work 100% plus some more to provide such kind of lesson plan and keep all the students engaged. But students have to know when they come to the lesson that they're going to work, not just sit and listen. It's about choices. Students really love and feel motivated when they are provided some choice. Of course, this choice should be aligned with our objectives, with our lesson plan, syllabus, curriculum, whatever. But if at least we can provide some kind of choice in activities, in assessment method, in topics, that makes students feel empowered. This is about collaboration, and as I said, this is the most tough part for students from Azerbaijan, because whenever you provide some kind of group work, group presentation, or whatever, some students try to shift their responsibilities to more active ones and just keep silent. And encouraging students to discussions, to peer teaching, to, I don't know, peer working is one of the most challenging parts, because first of all, teachers' responsibility here is to provide roles that every student can carry. Also, we should provide yes, monitoring that each student who has their role implement their role. And of course, we should have plan B, because in case any student does not implement their role, we should substitute him or her with someone else. And by the way, this happens quite often in our case. And we should be ready for that. And of course, if we're speaking about learner-centered environment, it should be aligned with experiences. When the student feels that the knowledge they get in the classroom are aligned with their interests, when they feel that they can apply this knowledge in the real life, this really boosts their interest and brings intrinsic motivation. And what is more important here, I would say, is to set goals together. For example, if we're speaking about the beginning of the term, we can involve our students and prepare our list of goals that align with teachers' goals and with student ones. For example, if their goal is to be able to watch their favorite movie in the original, and our goal is to boost their speaking and listening skills, of course, we can prepare the list easily that aligns with both goals and objectives. And here we come to clear goals, of course. First of all, I should say that students, again, should be involved in that. And by creating them together, we keep the student motivated. But we should keep in mind that every goal, as actually in everything, and this is not anything new, every goal should be SMART. Yes, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Actually, if the goal is too general or not measurable, that does not motivate students, because some kind of subconsciously they know that this is not achievable, and they even do not roughly saying bother themselves by trying. And of course it should be time bound and relevant from teacher's perspective, because we have our own schedule and syllabus in it should be aligned with that. And of course for both sides it should be achievable, because unfortunately we have some limited hours of lessons at universities and schools. It makes no difference, or even at private organizations. And we have to keep in mind that while preparing our goals. Regular feedback. As it has been mentioned before, whenever we provide autonomy to a student, that does not mean full independence. It's just partial autonomy, and teachers should monitor all the process, guide and assist students with every step, because every student is an individual with their own package of difficulties, issues, problems, stereotypes, and so on. And we teachers should be ready to assist each of them, let's say, I would say individually, because learning autonomy provides individual approach. And it's about reflection. We never know how it goes unless we get reflection. By assessment, by their experiences, and by their impressions. It's very important that assessment in this at this stage should be from two different sides. From academic point of view, like we should see how our approach is effective and if these students get the goals that we are setting. And at the same time, we have to make sure that students feel really comfortable with this or that tasks, and they are confident enough to continue with such kind of approach in education. And here we have kind of statistic that students with clear goals are twice as likely to succeed academically because they are sustainable, they are focused, and this makes them to be a little bit more responsible than they are usually. And if we're speaking about empowering choices or agency, we should say that teacher should offer choices. Here I would like to speak in more details about that. Of course, for example, we cannot suggest something that is beyond our syllabus, but if it's aligned with our goals. For example, let's say if our purpose is speaking activity, so we can suggest students a debate, a discussion, TED Talks format. And if, let's say, further they choose debate, we can suggest a couple of topics that cover, let's say, vocabulary from previous lessons. If they were, let's say, something about clothes or something about environment and so on. So they have this vocabulary ready, these grammar patterns ready, so they can easily adjust them to the debate. And we suggest, or let's say, should, the most popular one, should school uniform be obligatory at schools? Of course, they use the vocabulary from the previous lesson, but at the same time, they feel empowered to make choice. They chose, for example, not TED Talks, but debate. They chose not environment, but uniform discussion. Then, pursuing passion. If we allow students to explore their hobbies, their interests deeply, that definitely brings amazing results. For example, just recently I had a student who made amazing presentation about Rubik's Cube, and it was really good. And I saw the hard work that student did himself because he's interested in the origin of this hobby, let's say, in the ways how to implement it and so on. And he did not apply to AI for a ready presentation because this topic brings him not only knowledge in English or assessment or any mark in English, but also satisfaction of what he loves, he knows, and he wants to investigate even more. It's about self-assessment because if student reflects on learning progress regularly, as we said, we have to make sure that they feel confident. And if they do that regularly, this is definitely about self-reflection. And the more students think about that, the more responsible and the more conscious they are in future. And it's about risk-taking, of course, because again, I refer to our culture, the aching point of our students is speaking. They're really afraid of public speaking. And if we promote that only by making mistakes, we improve, and only by making mistakes, we can learn from them and become better, I would say our goal is reached. And so risk-taking is one of the crucial points of learner autonomy. Here, we come to teacher's part. As I said, this is really hard to make a lesson where students are working and teacher is taking rest. First of all, this is about organization. We have to organize activities, we have to scaffold the students, provide vocabulary, provide grammar patterns, make sure that these topics are interesting for our learners, and be absolutely sure that they can cover these as a lesson, because the most difficult part is that one. Not only to make lesson plan, but to make lesson plan when the students are working themselves because they are engaged, not because the teacher constantly asks questions or pushes them, do this, write this, answer this question, and so on. But they ask, they speak. And actually, I would say the most rewarding part for me personally as a teacher is when the students, after the lesson, leaving the classroom, still discussing what they were doing in the classroom. In that case, you said, yes, this lesson was absolutely successful. In the classroom, teacher's role is monitoring, and only. They see teachers sitting and having a rest, but we are monitoring, and we should provide support whenever it's needed. If it's group work, we are monitoring the class and seeing, oh, here, for example, they switch to language one, or here they lack information, or they lack proper vocabulary. Actually, it should be foreseen beforehand, but of course, in the real life process, still they need some kind of support, and we have to do that. And at the end, we evaluate. We should reflect critically on the performance of the whole, how they worked together, how they performed individually, and what was the result of the lesson. Not just one student spoke this part, but this spoken part is a result of hard work of the whole group. It should be, of course. And we have to evaluate the whole process, the whole performance, not just one stage of this. And here we come again to main parts, main roles of the teacher. This is, as I said, clear expectations. If we can suggest rubrics, I would say this is the best, because students should know what they are expected, or they are sitting and using language one and doing some kind of, let's say, presentations that is good, but they were not working in groups or using L1. And then in assessment, this is kind of surprise. Oh, I didn't know that I shouldn't use L1, or I didn't know that we should all work together. I know this information and I provide it. What's the problem? No, we should set the rules beforehand. So if we provide on the projector, on the board, whatever, the rubrics, or we can even print out them and give them, allowing them pre-assess their work, self-assessing their work before they present to the classroom, that really helps for individual work or autonomy. This is about resources. Actually, students love investigating, and if we provide them trustworthy resources, we make our own job easier. and their learning process much more interesting. This is about speed support. Maybe it's kind of manipulating, but students should feel like they are doing all things individually. And the support that we teachers provide should be like in the shade, not very seen from their side, because this really bursts their confidence when they feel that they're eligible to do this or that. And of course, they should know that we teachers are always there for them. If they need any kind of assistance, we're there and we're ready to help. So students should know that the teacher is accessible, the teacher is available for them to support whenever they need. And this also adds some kind of additional comfort for students. Assessment. Again, if even this is student-learned, student-centered classroom, if it's learner autonomy, it makes no difference. The ways of assessment are still the same. This is formative assessment for all the process, for ongoing learning. This is self and peer assessment. And one of the most challenging parts for me is to make students trust me, believe that this really works, because usually, traditionally, I would say, our students are more about the model of the teacher who is monitoring everything and has the only right of voice. And if we want to switch from this model, self-assessment and peer assessment is one of the most important points we have to integrate to our learning. This is about mastery focus and diverse demonstrations, because as we know, if we refer to Russian, there are different kinds of learners. Also, there are different kinds of skills we have to develop. So if we apply multiple ways of showing learning and, of course, assessing them, we get much more result. Because sometimes the student cannot express themselves in that way, but can be amazing in some other way. And and we as teachers have to find these ways. As a conclusion, I would say that this is really important because, first of all, this is about 21st century skills. And this is about lifelong learning. Because if we provide this skill to students, then they apply it not only within English, but with any kind of knowledge in future. This is about educators' role. We have to explain students that teacher is a facilitator, because we are there to help, not to totally do everything for them, speak and let them listen. It's about empowerment. If we are able to do that, students feel really confident. So this is about strategies that help students to reach their potentials, because sometimes they even themselves are not aware about that. And this is about future vision. Because if the learner adopts this kind of learning, then they do it all their life long. Actually, that's all I wanted to tell today. And here are my contact information. If you have any questions, if you want to stay in touch, I would actually love to stay in touch. And hopefully, yes, I have one more meeting. I was in time. Okay, that's good. Thank you so much once more. And I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Salmanova, so much for your such an informative presentation. Yeah, we have 1 minute. Maybe someone has any questions.
You're welcome. Welcome. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me today.
So a lot of thanks here from our chat.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for being here.
So if you don't have any questions, then thank you once more to everyone who joined our session at Sumy State Pedagogical University. Thank you once more to our great presenters. It was really a great pleasure. And we are so proud and happy to be one of co-hosts of such a great event as an online convention. And our session is over, and now we will have a short break, and at 10:50, you are welcome to listen to two more brilliant speakers, Elizabeth Basok and Jordan Brown. But it will be a different link, and you see it on the screen, and I will add it to the chat. And I'm passing the baton to one more, our co-host, Zhytomyr Ivano-Franko State University. So thank you very much once more. Thank you for being with us. So goodbye.
Аня, я думаю, можно
Да, я сейчас
завершивать.
отключу. Я просто думаю, ну, мало ли вдруг там кто-то копирует еще ссылку. Чуть-чуть подожду, пока.
Мгм, мгм.
Окей.
Дякую, молодець. Все чудово.